welcome to CRT 2020. This is CardioTube, and this session is going to focus on cardiogenic shock. So thanks very much for joining us. My name is Navin Kapur, coming from Boston, Massachusetts. I have with me Kat Thayer from Boston, Massachusetts. She's the data operations lead for the cardiogenic shock working group. And I have Sandeep Nathan from Chicago, and I have Tim Henry from Cincinnati. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So cardiogenic shock is a front and center issue for interventional cardiologists and the cardiovascular community at large. There's been a lot of interesting data coming out over the past few years based on registry data, and now there's a call for randomized controlled trials. So in the next few minutes, we're going to get opinions and important expert feedback from this panel about different entities in the shock space. Tim, I'm going to start with you. So as one of the key leaders of the SKY consensus statement regarding shock stages, can you tell us a little bit about where you think the SKY stages are going to become applicable for clinical practice and how you think this might inform the development of future studies related to cardiogenic shock?
Yeah, I'm delighted. So obviously for SKY, for interventional cardiologists, cardiogenic shock is a key issue because we've made such tremendous progress, and I think with cardiogenic shock we still have a ways to go. And it was clear from the data that we have is there was a problem with definitions. So if you come to the cath lab and your wedge is 25 and your blood pressure is 90, that's cardiogenic shock. If you get shocked 75 times and your blood pressure is 50 and you're on a Lucas device, that's cardiogenic shock. Well, those are not the same people. So we felt about a year and a half ago, we put together a group at SKY to create the SKY shock classification. So it goes from A, which is at risk, B, beginning, C, kind of classic cardiogenic shock, D, deteriorating, and E, extremis. And I think what's happened since then, since it was published less than a year ago, it's already been validated now 5 or 6 times, which clearly shows this increase in mortality. So this is a great step forward because when you do a clinical trial, you can put more homogeneous patients in the trial. And the final thing I'd say about this is a really important aspect is cardiac arrest. And there's a modifier, so cardiogenic shock with or without cardiac arrest, which is another really important issue.
Yeah, I think these are critical, and I think you've highlighted, from the Jenser paper and some of the other data sets that are coming out, the importance of cardiac arrest and its impact on outcomes for patients. The SKY stage is clearly, it's a consensus document. It's got a lot of variables in the definitions, but I think what's most exciting to me about the SKY stages is that from the lens of different views of how you interpret the definitions from the consensus document, it's still holding as a very strong predictor of in-hospital mortality. Right. And I agree with you, that really moves the dial forward. One of the challenges in the space of cardiogenic shock has been data. And I think, more recently we've seen 2 really important papers come out, both at the AHA and also more recently published in Circulation and in JAMA Cardiology. And these data sets are now emerging from administrative data sets that are based on insurance claims, et cetera. So Sandeep, can you speak to and help our audience understand how we're going to interpret these data sets?
Yeah, I think the strength and the weakness of these data sets is that it's sourced from the real world, and the real world is, as I think we all agree, is a bit messier than the rarefied world of clinical trials. I think dealing with administrative data sets has its own challenges. The granularity in the data is just not there, and even the temporal sequence between an observation and an outcome of interest can be a little bit difficult to sort of gel together. That said, the 30,000-foot view of the cardiogenic shock space is defined, I think, in some part by some of these data, and it certainly would serve as a complement and to guide the future development of randomized controlled trials.
Yeah, and I think the main takeaway is that vascular safety, stroke safety, these are all critically important aspects of shock management, especially as it relates to technologies. I think one of the key things for our audience to understand is that you have to look at where the data sources are coming from. Recognize that data that's not adjudicated to the severity of shock or the multiple dimensional aspects of shock are difficult to interpret, but these are important aspects that we have to keep in mind. And the only way we're going to answer these questions is with prospective RCT-driven data. So we're excited to see that coming out. Kat, I wanted to have you also weigh in. You've been working with the cardiogenic shock working group. Can you tell us a little bit, or just what is the cardiogenic shock working group, and what are the primary objectives for that group?
Yeah, so this group was started to kind of address the problems that have arisen from RCTs, where it's hard to kind of adjudicate patient severity, and we're seeing a lot of failure in studies because of that. So our goal is moving forward to create a prospective registry that will capture more invasive hemodynamics over time, so we can really capture the escalation and de-escalation of all-cause MI and HF shock patients to kind of inform those studies better.
Yeah, and I think the other aspect of the working group is it's now inclusive of all mechanical support. So unlike CVAD or also, it gives us a real look at real-world experience with the technology.
Yeah, exactly.
And is there anything coming out from the shock working group that folks should know about?
We're going prospective coming up, so we're going to collect more long-term health outcomes, and also we can kind of control the timing of the data that we're getting.
Great. Terrific. All right, well, there's a little snippet of some of the work coming out in cardiogenic shock from some of the experts in the field. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to further discussions around the era of cardiogenic shock.